Hello, this is a walkthrough of the first AAT sample assessment for Principles of Bookkeeping Controls, Level 2, under the new Q 2022 specification. Okay, so we have an hour and a half to do this exam, 8 tasks, 80 marks. So you've got 80 marks, you've got 90 minutes. So how much is that? So you've got 90 minutes to do. So you've got just over obviously a minute per mark. So let us crack on. So task 1. This task is about using control accounts. A payables ledger control account balance is shown in the general ledger. Identify which one of the following is correct in relation to the PLCA. So just go down each one in turn, and even once you think you've selected the right answer, always check that the others are definitely wrong. So a payables ledger control account enables quick identification of the total amount owed to suppliers. Well, yes, it does, because the payables ledger control account just shows the total to all suppliers, and then the detail of how much is owed to each individual supplier is shown in their individual accounts in the payables ledger. So remember, the PLCA is an account which sits in the general ledger, and then the individual supplier accounts sit in the subsidiary ledger, which is the payables ledger. So I think it's the top one. A payables ledger control account enables quick identification of an amount owed to a specific supplier. No, it does not. It just shows the amount in total. A payables ledger control account should always be produced by the same person who produces the subsidiary ledgers. Subsidiary ledgers is just the collective term for the receivables and payables ledger. As this improves accuracy. Well, actually, no. In an ideal world, you'd have somebody different doing that. It's called segregation of duty. So it means that there's less risk of fraud or error because you've got more than one person involved. So it's definitely not that one. A payables ledger control account enables discrepancies between the bank and the subsidiary ledger. Well, no. Payables ledger control account, nothing to do with the bank. So I'm happy with my answer. You work in the accounts department of Sturco Limited. Your manager has run a report which shows a credit balance on the VAT control account at the end of February of £3,800. The credit balance at the end of January was 8710. Your manager has asked you to prepare a VAT control account to explain why February shows a lower balance. And we've been given this information for the month of February. All right, so we've got to complete the VAT control account below for February by selecting and entering things into the account. Now, incidentally, this information can also be reviewed by clicking here. So then we can have all that data and at the same time be completing the control account, and we can drag that over just to sort of adjust the width, but as long as I can still see those numbers there, that's all I'm really interested in. And here's my VAT control account. So going down each item in turn then, I've got the balance brought down and carried down already in here. Brought down means that we owed this amount to HMRC. It's on the credit side, it's a liability. Carried down would then become the brought down, so this means at the end of the month we owe them less, and that's what the question was about. So entering each of these into the VAT control account. So VAT on sales. Oh, now that is slightly irritating. Every time you click enter, that goes back to the top. but I don't think there's anything we can do about that. So we put the VAT on sales in there. VAT on purchases, sorry, I should have explained. This will be on the credit side because we're collecting that VAT from our customers and we owe it as a liability to HMRC. Over here, we're going to have the VAT on our purchases, and that figure is 2,000. That can be reclaimed, so it's reducing the liability. Sales returns must be the opposite of sales, so I'm going to put the 130 in there. And the narrative there will be sales returns. Quite interesting, it's only letting me put certain things in each box. So purchase returns, you can see in this box it's only letting me either put sales or purchase returns. And again, that goes back to the top, so slightly irritating that you have to keep moving that up and down. Right, discounts allowed, so that's to do with our customers. A credit note will give us either a sales return or a discount allowed. So discounts allowed must be on the same side as the sales returns. So discounts allowed, it's only giving me those two options. Discounts allowed, the figure was 20. And then discounts received. Incidentally, if you can't get it to click and you just type any letter, it gives you the drop-down menu. I'm not sure if that's going to be the same on the real exam, but that's how it's working here for me. 30 goes in there. VAT on cash sales, so that must be, so it's only giving me an option of bank or cash sales. So cash sales, again, it's VAT that I've collected from customers, doesn't matter whether they're cash or credit. The VAT, that one will come from the cash book. And then when we pay HMRC, so we did owe them 8710, we've made a payment, so that's going to go on this side. And that amount was 7820. Again, that makes sense if you think about the double entry. Money being paid from the bank is always a credit in the bank account. So credit the bank, debit the VAT, clearing part of that liability. All right, so that would be the answer there. If I click on references again, it gets rid of that information. Gow Limited has the following receivables ledger control account. What will be the balance carried down? So it's just basically asking me what number will go in this box, but then to type it in here instead. So my approach here, I obviously know that the debit side is going to add up to more because they've left me a space on the credit side here. So I've obviously got 59,390. I then add up these three numbers here. I get 30,500. Subtract that 30,500 from the totals, the 59,390, and that gives me a closing balance of 28,890. On to task 2. Just watching the time well, you know, within limits. So this is about reconciling control accounts. The balance on the receivables ledger control account will appear in the year-end trial balance. It is important to reconcile this to the receivables ledger. So let's just remind ourselves the RLCA is an account in the general ledger, part of the double entry, so it goes into the trial balance. The receivables ledger is one of our subsidiary ledgers, and it contains those memorandum accounts, or the individual customers' accounts. So each one will have an individual balance, and the sum of all of those individual balances should be equal to the one big total on the RLCA. Identify which one of the following statements is a reason for completing this reconciliation. So again, let's go down, let's go through all of them, see what we think, but make sure we check everything. So the receivables ledger is always more accurate than the receivables ledger control account. Well, it shows more detail, but it's not more accurate. They're both accurate. They serve a slightly different purpose, and then we check that they reconcile. I don't think it's that one. Errors in either the receivables ledger or the control account can be identified and corrected. Well, yeah, we've seen how to do that when we were looking at how to reconcile them. I think it's that. Let's just check the others. The receivables ledger can be deleted once it has been reconciled. No, you don't want to delete it. You want an ongoing record of how much each individual customer owes. And finally, any errors can be identified and included. The suspense account balance, that doesn't actually make sense. Any errors can be identified and included in the suspense account balance. I'm quite sure what that's getting at. You wouldn't really want a suspense account balance. The suspense account balance arises when there's a difference on your trial balance. So it's kind of nothing to do with the reconciliation between these two accounts. So I'm happy with my answer there. So we can move on. You work in the accounts department of Cakes for You Limited. You've been asked to reconcile the balance on the payables ledger control account to your supplier's report. The following supplier's report as at 31st of March has been provided. So we've got all these individual suppliers, their reference, how much they owe. And then it says, if the payables ledger control account reconciles with the payables ledger, what will be the balance? Well, if it reconciles, the total on the PLCA will be the sum of all these individual balances. So I prepared this earlier, but basically it's a bit tedious. You've just got to add up all of these, which comes to 55,992. 2 marks. The balance on the payables ledger control isn't 55992, it's actually 55261. So the control account is how much, well, I can see straight away it's lower. 55261 is lower than 55992. So less. And then I'm just going to find the difference. So 55992 subtract 55261 is £731 less. The receivables ledger control account shows a balance of 87786. That's the control account, the totals. The individual balances in the ledger only add up to 85382. So what this is sort of saying to me is, well, I've got too many debits or not enough credits in my control account, or maybe I haven't got enough debits or maybe too many credits in my receivables ledger. The question then asks identify whether each of the following may explain the difference. We've got 5 statements and we've got to say whether or not they could explain this difference. So what I do is I have a T account drawn. I can't draw on here, but T account for the RLCA with 87786 as a debit. And then my individual balances I'm visualising a whole load of these all adding up to a total of 85382. And then we can sort of approach each one in turn. So a sale to a new customer was missed from the individual balances when totaling up the receivables ledger. Right, so if we imagine all our individual balances, at the moment that's lower than the control account. So it would make sense that if something had been missed out of this list, then, you know, it could have caused this problem, couldn't it? Something's been missed out. If we then added it in, we might well reconcile them. So yes, I think that would explain the difference. Second one, a sales invoice has been recorded twice in the receivables ledger. Right, so receivables ledger, if an invoice in a receivables ledger is debited. So if an invoice had gone in twice into someone's account, we would expect there to be too many debits, which would have made this number here too big. But this number's actually too small. So it can't be that. Doesn't explain the difference. Thirdly, a cash sale has not been recorded. So a cash sale hasn't been recorded anywhere. So it wouldn't be in the detail, it wouldn't be in the receivables ledger, neither would it be in the total in the RLCA. So both of them would be understated because of a missing sales invoice, but it wouldn't account for a difference. We're being asked what might explain the difference. So it can't be that. A transposition error, that's where two numbers have been swapped round. So for example, 54 becomes 45. A transposition error was made when initially recording a sale in the daybook. Now, if something goes in as the wrong number in the daybook, it means it's going to go wrong into the receivables ledger, into the individual person's account, and it's going to be added up wrong in the total that ends up in the receivables ledger. So similar to this one above, if you've got an error here in the daybook, it's going to cause the same error in the receivables ledger and in the receivables ledger control account. So again, it can't account for the difference. It's wrong. It's wrong in both, but it's not leading to the difference. Right, and then the last one. A discount allowed to a customer has been recorded twice in the individual customer's account in the receivable ledger. Right, so a discount allowed is a credit in the receivables ledger control account. They're saying it's been recorded twice. So that would mean that I would have had too many credits in this receivable ledger figure. Too many credits would have made this too low. And it is too low. So that can explain the difference. And quite a challenging question there. Okay. So task 3, 8 marks, about payment methods and reconciling the cash book to the bank statement. So one payment method for each description by dragging and dropping. Incidentally, with these, you have to drag and drop right into the middle. So if I put that there, it's not going to go. If I put it there, it will. And if I decide I don't want it, it can come back out again. Right, a method of making the same regular payment directly from the bank account. So a regular payment. So I know it's either going to be a direct debit or a standing order. The fact that it's the same fixed amount pulls me towards standing order. A payment made by card, which immediately impacts the bank statement, the bank account. So cards, the only options would be a credit card or a debit card. Credit cards, obviously buy now, pay later. The one that comes straight out is the debit card. Third one, a signed written order to a bank to transfer a specified amount of money to a payee. Well, signed should be the clue there. So the one that's not electronic is going to be a cheque. A method of making regular payments from a bank account, which can vary in amount. So not the standing order that we saw earlier, the direct debit. The other difference between a direct debit and a standing order, you've given the order to your bank to make the payment, whereas a direct debit, you've given authority for the recipient to take the money from your bank account. The ones that we're left with, BACS, that tends to be used for high volume transfers, so either paying suppliers or wages payments. Cash tends to be low value, like window cleaning, that sort of thing. CHAPS is your high value automatic transfers on the same day, usually used for property purchases, and credit card we've already mentioned. A business is reconciling its bank statement to its cash book. Identify which one of the following statements is true. All errors in the account can be identified by completing a bank reconciliation. Well, clearly not. It's only checking between the bank statement and the cash book. There's plenty of other things that could go wrong. As the bank statement is independent, the cash book total will always be changed to agree to the bank statement. No, we don't do that because we know that there could be timing differences. We've got it in our cash book and it hasn't yet hit the bank statement. Or of course, the bank could have made an error. No, I don't think it's that one. The cash book may be more accurate than the bank statement balance as a result of timing differences. That's what we've just said. Got those outstanding lodgements and unpresented checks. Identify whether each of the following statements are true or false. A direct debit for mobile phone bills of £93 is shown in the bank statement. It's not in the cash book. £93 will need to be deducted in the bank reconciliation to make it agree. Well, no, because it's not in the cash book. It would need to be written into the cash book, not deducted in the bank reconciliation. So that one is going to be false. Unpresented checks, outstanding lodgements and bank interest are all examples of timing differences. Well, unpresented checks and outstanding lodgements are, but not bank interest. That would be something that would be updated in the cash book. So false. Comparing the credit side of the cash book to the amounts paid out in the bank statement. So cash book, I know money in is on the debit, money out is on the credit. So credit side, money paid out, yeah, will enable any automated payments that have been missed in the cash book to be identified. Well, yeah, that's what we do, isn't it? When we tick between the bank statement and the cash book, we're looking for things that we've missed. So yes. On to task 4. 12 marks. So this is your bank reconciliation question. So you're given a cash book, you're given the bank statement, and you have to update the cash book and then prepare the bank reconciliation. So the beauty of this is if they reconcile, you know you've got the marks. Right, so what have we got here? First thing we need to look for is the opening balances. I'm going to use the highlighter to help me here. So I've got a balance of 5988 in my cash book, and the bank statement is showing, I need to highlight all of that, 5988 here, sorry, and 5432 in the bank statement. So the first thing I'm going to do is find what the difference is. So 5988 take away 5432 is a difference of 556. So the first thing I'm going to do is have a look for that amount clearing the bank statement. So I'm looking for 556. It's not necessarily just going to be near the top. It could be anywhere, but I can't see it. So my next port of call is to see if there are two items which combine to make that 556 difference. So a good sort of tip on this is just to look at the last digits. So for example, I think I've spotted it already. So 986 there, for example, ends in a 6. I'm looking for the difference of 556. So something on the other side with a 0 gives me the correct digit at the end. And then if I check 986 take away 430, that gives me my 556 difference. So as you can see, I've highlighted those. A very common mistake is that people don't tick them off because obviously they don't see them in the cash book, and then they try and update the cash book. But what would have actually happened is these items would have been in the previous month, so March's cash book. So we certainly don't want to be entering them again. All right, so you can just sort of double check now. If you do 5432, add 986, take away 430, you come to the 5988 that we've got in the cash book. Right, and then from there you want to highlight, effectively ticking anything else. And I would recommend not to do that. I would recommend to do one column at a time. So work your way down here, because sometimes, you know, something might be on the wrong side and you might just merely tick it because you see the same number. So if here we've got, these are the debits in the cash book. So these are the paid in the bank. So I'm now looking for 1100. There it is. So highlight the 1100. $2,300 is there. It's worth having a little practice with this highlighting tool for this question because it is very handy. 999, not there. And also at the same time, I can see that 580 can't be ticked either. Then let's move to the other side. So we've got our paid out. So 1300. Yep, that's on both. So let's highlight the 1300. $210, not there. 1190 is there. And that's it. Oh, there we go. Right, so I've done all my highlighting, my ticking. So now the question is asking me to update the cash book. Now, they've given me the closing balance brought down 8586. So some of you might be used to doing questions where you literally carry on from what's there already and then balance off the whole thing. They're trying to be helpful and saving you a bit of adding up. So you're taking what we've got at the moment, this 8586. You can see that's in here as a debit, because if it was a carried down up here, so it's a brought down as our starting point. And then we're saying, well, what do we need to adjust the cash book for? So we adjust the cash book for items on the bank statement that haven't yet been ticked because they don't appear in the cash book. So I've got two payments there, a direct debit and some bank charges, and a transfer for S. Smythe. Right, so I don't suppose it matters what order we do it in. Transfer, can scroll down, there we are. So we've got the transfer for S. Smythe, 580. That is money coming in, so it's a debit in my cash book, money in. And then we've got those other two items, the direct debit of 154. Direct debit for the electric company. And then we had bank charges. Are they £12? Yep, £12 there. So they go in as a credit. And then it's asking for the adjusted balance carried down. So we're basically balancing this off as if it were a T account. So if I add up 8586 plus 580, I get 9. No, I don't. If I get 8586, I haven't written this down, hang on, plus 580, I get a total of 9166. And then if I subtract my credits, so minus 154 and minus 12, I get a balance of 9,000. So you can see now my debit column equals my credit column. I'm just balancing off in the usual way. Just looks a little bit different to what you might be used to. And then onto the bank reconciliation. So now I'm looking at my cash book for unticked items that haven't yet cleared the bank. So on the 28th of April, there was money in from H. Khan, 999. So I can't put it there. It's got to go in there. So H. Khan, 999, that's being added. And then less this 210 from AFG. I'm just going to go up and see if it gives me any instructions about. No, it doesn't tell me whether it wants me to put minus sign in for that. I'm assuming not, but I'm just going to double check on their mark. I mean, I know I've got to subtract it. 8211 plus 999, take away 210, gives me the 9,000. Let's just go on to the answers quickly. Just to double check to see if they put a minus sign in or not. I know I've got it right because it reconciled. But I wouldn't want to lose easy marks. So let's just check on their mark scheme. There we are. No, so they haven't put that minus sign in. It's just what we thought. So that's how it should look. Great. On to task 5 about using the journal. Identify which 2 of the following situations would be a correct use of the journal. Well, we know that we use the journal for opening balances, if we're putting on a new computerized system or something like that. We use it for writing off irrecoverable debts. We use it for wages, and we use it to correct errors. So we're looking for situations for one of those. So Harry thinks he may have spent at least £200 more on mobile phone bills than is currently showing in the mobile phone expense account. He will therefore process an extra £200 debit via the journal. No, it's a bit vague, isn't it? He doesn't think, he thinks he's spent at least £200 more. It would need to say an error has been identified, that there was a payment of £200 that needs to be corrected. Right, so don't think it's that one. Mary has reviewed her receivables listing and has identified a customer who owes £200. The debt is now 1 year overdue, and the customer no longer lives at the address Mary has on record. She wishes to write the balance off. Right, so that is a classic irrecoverable debt, which is a good example of using the journal. So we think it's that one. Rakib has noticed that his repairs and maintenance expense balance is much larger than he would expect, and on investigation he identifies that an asset acquired for £3,000 has been incorrectly coded to repairs and maintenance. He wishes to correct this by debiting the asset and crediting the expense. Right, so we've got a clear error of principle here. It's an asset that's been incorrectly coded as an expense. So that would have to be put right using a journal. Veronica is selling her business and wants to leave the purchaser detailed notes on how the business works. No, that's not what the journal is. It's not a story. It's instructions on what account to debit and what account to credit. A journal has been recorded in the accounting system as follows. Right, so this is a payroll journal. So what's happening here? So we're crediting the amount that we pay to the workers, they're the net pay. We've got the total wages expense, which is made up of the gross plus the employer's national insurance. And then we've got all of our employee deductions here as credits as well. So no mention of wages control. Looks like it's sort of more for a computerized system. And it says prior to this journal, the balance on the payroll liability HMRC account was a debit of £49. Slightly odd they put the 0.00 in there and no 0.00s in here, but nevertheless, so we're starting with a debit of 49, and this journal is telling us to credit 2384 2187 1856. And the question is, after the journals are processed, what will be the revised balance on the payroll liability HMRC account? So what we need to do here is add up the total amount of all these credits. So 2384 plus 2187 plus 1856. These are the only ones that involve the payroll liability HMRC account that we're being asked for. So add up all of those, and then they're all credits. And then subtract the debit of the 49. So we're effectively just balancing off the account. You could draw it as a T account if you wish. And then you can calculate that the balance will be 6378. Just out of interest, if I press answer there, look, if I press answer, it just takes me on to the next one. So just make sure you practice navigating. So I'm just going to go back and finish that off. Back to task 5. Select edit. Oh, hang on, that's taking me back to task 4. I've done that one, haven't I? Oh, it's page 5, task 4, sorry. So I want this one. So answer that one again, right? Then to go back to this one, edit, and then press index again, we'll get rid of that. All right, so have a little practice of that before you do your live test. The following invoice has been outstanding for more than 6 months, and Simon wishes to write the amount off as an irrecoverable debt. All right, so we've got the net amount, the VAT, and then the total due. A little bit misleading, they've used the word total there for the net figure, but you can look at the figures, you know the net is the smaller amount. Complete the journal entries below to record the irrecoverable debt write-off in the nominal ledger. So description for all 3 will be the same. So we're just writing out our irrecoverable debt journal. Again, if we want to, we can press that reference information and get the data slightly more handy. But as before, it's going to go back to the beginning each time, so it's not that handy. So with the net amount, we want the irrecoverable debt. And that net amount of 380 will be a debit because that's an expense. Then you've got your VAT. That was £76. So if you forget the figures, you can just have a look there. And then finally, the receivables ledger control for the full amount, and that would be, credited. Doesn't matter which order you write those 3 in, by the way. Okay. Right, task number 6, 10 marks. Let me get rid of this and get rid of the highlighter as well. Actually, that's still on, I think, is it? Yeah, there we go. So this is about using the journal to correct errors. A suspense account is shown in the trial balance of Warren's business. Identify which 2 of the following statements about suspense accounts are true. Depending on whether it is a debit or a credit, it will be included as either an asset or liability. No, it won't. You don't have a suspense account in your final accounts. It's temporary. You look for the mistakes and then you correct it and clear it. So it's not that. A suspense account will always exist if there is an error. Again, that's not true because we've seen some errors previously arising between the bank statement and the cash book, possibly. You could have errors between the receivables ledger control account and the receivables ledger, or you could have errors, the core COP errors, the ones that are not revealed by the trial balance and don't need a suspense account. So it's definitely not that one. The suspense account has only identified errors that result in an imbalance in the trial balance. Yes, we only use the suspense account in that situation. The suspense account cannot remain in the final account. Well, yes, we've already said that, so good. Those 2. Identify whether each of the errors described below would or would not be disclosed by the trial balance. So again, we're looking to see if they're one-sided errors or not. Dharmesh made a cash sale for £180. He put the cash into his wallet and completely forgot to record the sale. Well, that's not going to be disclosed because it's just missing altogether. It's an error of omission. Sally made a transposition error when entering the opening balances into the new accounting system. She entered the non-current asset balance as the wrong number. So she's only put one thing in as the wrong number. So it's a one-sided problem. So I'm just going to go back up to make sure the headings, it'd be good if they froze the headings, but never mind. So that one would be disclosed. Seema and Paul run a small business selling party bags for children's birthdays. They operate a manual accounting system and have prepared a trial balance at the year end. The trial balance shows total debits of 19,876 and total credits of 24,854. Right, so we work out what the difference is. So difference, just looking to see if I've calculated it earlier. I don't think I have. Right, so let's do 24,854 minus 19,876. So that is a difference of 4,978. So the question, there's some errors. What is the balance on the suspense account? 4,978. And it plugs the gap, so it will be a debit. Complete the table below to show the debits and credits that will be processed to clear the suspense account. So they've put some figures in there that relate to these errors. The total on the sales day book at the end of February was 2,498. When processing this total to the general ledger, Paul credited both the sales account and the receivables ledger control account. Right, so what I'd like you to do here, draw yourself the T account. So draw yourself the sales account and the RLCA account. And write in what you've got. So you have got 2,498 on the credit side of both of those accounts. Write the word got next to it, or have, or something, or tick it, or show that that's what you've got in there at the moment. So we're happy, therefore, that the sales account is correct. It should have been credited. But the receivables ledger control account, it's on the credit side, it should be on the debit side. So what we need to do is we need to take out the wrong number. So we've been sort of learning these in two parts. So we would go debit the RLCA with 2498 and credit suspense with 2498. And then, so that would get rid of the wrong entry. And if you've got this in a T account in front of you, it's so much easier to just visualize. And then you need to repeat that to get it in where it should be. So you need to go debit RLCA 2498 and credit suspense. Now, you will notice that the way they've written this with the figure 4996, they haven't done it twice. But that doesn't matter because we know that we did 2 lots of 2498. 2 lots of 2498 is 4996. And we just established that we needed to debit the receivables ledger control account and credit suspense. Then come to the second error. In March, Paul paid an electricity bill. He correctly credited the cash book with 124. So again, I've drawn a T account for bank and put 124, written the word got next to it and ticked it because I'm happy that's correct. But he recorded this as a debit in the electricity of 142. So again, I've drawn a T account for electricity. I've written 142 on the debit side. And I've written that that's what I've got. I can quite clearly see it should be 124. So could sort of take out the wrong amount, put in the right amount. Or, as they've done here and shortcutting it, you know, you've got 142 as electricity. So you've got too much debit. So you're going to have to credit the electricity and debit the suspense. Do not try and shortcut this question. Draw your T accounts and make sure you can see exactly what's happening. Task 7. This task is about extracting a trial balance. I'm hoping this is going to be quite straightforward, but there's lots of room for error if you are too quick or sloppy when you're using your calculator. There's a lot of adding up to do. So Wilma runs a shop. Most of the ledger accounts have been closed off and the balance is included in the trial balance as at 31st of July. Complete the remaining ledger accounts by inserting the balance carried down on each account. 2 decimal places. So they haven't given us room for the totals, but they've told us conveniently what side the balance carried down is going to sit on. So we can deduce from that that this credit side must add up to the highest amount. So begin by adding up the 11,674.22, the 520 and the 42,445.67. If you add up all of those, you get 54,639.67. No, can't do. Bear with me, I'll do it again. 11,674.22 plus 520 plus 42,445.67. So that gives me 54,639.89 as the total. If I then add up these 3 numbers, I get £51,592.64. I then subtract that from the total on my credit side, which gives me a balance carried down of £3,047.03. Now, when that is brought down, it's the brought down figure that goes onto the trial balance. So I'm just going to come straight over here and put in that 3047.03 as a credit, right? Because it's a debit carried down, it must be a credit brought down. It means that our bank account is overdrawn. VAT control, repeat the process. So sum of this side comes to £12,652.30. Subtract the 9006.20, which gives us a balance of £3646.10. It's a carried down. So on the trial balance, it's on the other side, the brought down 3646.10. Right, so it's always the brought down on the trial balance. Discounts allowed, so this one's straightforward. It's just going to be the 355.87. So it's a carried down, discounts allowed, so 355.87 will go in here. Makes sense because discounts allowed is a debit, it's an expense rather. And then finally the PLCA, so add up all three of these numbers, comes to £487.87. Subtract the 42445.67, which gives you a balance of £6,343.20. So that's going to go as a credit, 6,343.20, 6,343.20. And again, that makes sense. It's a liability. We owe that to our suppliers. And then you'll know if you've got it right because, and this is what I mean, there's just a lot of adding up, a lot of double checking to be done. You will have time, not a time consuming exam generally, apart from this bit, maybe the bank reconciliation. Right, so I've just added up all those debits and I've got £74,265.83. And then let's check the credit, 61,229.28, add 3047.03, add £3646.10, add 6,343.20. Oh dear. I've got 24265.80. I've got 61 on that side, which makes me think, oh, where was that one I made the mistake on with the sum? It was here, wasn't it? The bank. So that side came to 54,639.89. Take away 42,524.78. I wish I could say I did this on purpose. Take away 2,000. Aha, this should be 3,047.25. Now, if I just press backspace, it takes me to there, and I don't have to overtype the whole thing. I can just change that to 25. 3,047.25. So again, in here, just click backspace, and I'm able to change that. So now let's double check and see if that now adds up to the correct figure. 61,229.28 plus 3,047.25 plus 3,646.10 plus 6,343.20. Hurrah, it now adds up. It's very easy to make a mistake with the adding up, especially in the exam, or even when you're making a video. So just check, triple check. Right, final task, task 8, redrafting a trial balance. So approach here, the initial list of balances is some errors have been identified and the following journals are required to be processed. Right, now we do not care why they've done it or even if they've done it correctly. We are just following instructions. So we are going to be debiting our purchases with 3,554, crediting our suspense. Debiting our suspense with 1,758, crediting our discounts received. So what I recommend you do for this task, look at the list of journals and spot the first account that has any journal adjustment. So in this case, purchases. So then go to your original figure. So we've got 34,998.67. I recommend you draw a T account and you say to yourself, right, purchases, that's an expense. So this figure needs to be on the debit side to begin with. So put that in as a debit entry in your purchases account. Then come to your journals. And this one is only one entry. And we're going to debit, that's what we're told to do, 3,554. So I've got a purchases account with those two items on the debit side. So I can now do 34,998.67 plus 3,005.54. And my new purchases figure is going to be 38,004.21. On the debit side, it's an expense. If you're drawing it on the account, the carry downs on the credit side, the brought downs on the debit, and it's always the brought down that ends up in the trial balance. Suspense should clear, so let's just double check. So in fact, they haven't even told us the suspense, so we can't check, so just assume it does. And then discounts received. So you go to your original trial balance. We've got 268.54. So that is income. So draw a T account, put that on the credit side. Then we've got more credits. So put them in the credit side as well. Then we're going to do, to work out our balance, 268.54 plus the £17.58. So our discounts received is £286.12. Its income is on the credit side. And then the rest of our trial balance is just as normal. Now, can we get that up here? Is it? Yeah, it gives us it here. So we can do it like this is probably easiest. So sales we know is income. So 72,765. A lot of attention to detail. Make sure you don't make any transposition errors or any other errors for that matter. Bank. So because it doesn't say bank overdraft, we can assume that that's money in the bank. 12,038.29. Plant and equipment we know is an asset as well. So 7,333.99. And the RLCA, the money that's owed to us by our credit customers, about to be turned into money, it's an asset. We'll go there on the debit side. And then finally, more adding up, making sure that our trial balance now balances. I'm just adding these up, 674.81. Right, so I make that side £73,051.30. And then hopefully this side will work this time. 72,765.18 plus 286.12. 73,051.30. Done. Right, submit. Oh, I had half an hour left, so I've done all that in an hour with narrative, although I had done some of the adding up before. So to make sure I haven't made any mistakes. No. Right, good. That's it. I hope you found that useful. Whoops. That's the end of the video.